Welcome to another episode of the Apex Perspective podcast. This episode, we have Dr. David, who is the founder and CEO of UCS Advisors. David, I would love to begin the podcast off with the background story behind UCS Advisors.
Sure, and thank you first and foremost for having me today. For all your viewers, if people want to learn more about UCS Advisors, our website is ucsgreatness.com. And Arian, let's start with the word. What does UCS stand for? I get asked that question all the time. UCS stands for Use Common Sense. Just so everyone knows right off the bat. And UCS Advisors, thank you. So UCS Advisors, I formed this company out of need and demand when it comes to entrepreneurs, business owners, and founders. It's 2025. So we use a lot of the words fractional, like a fractional bookkeeper or a fractional marketing person. And what we do is we offer fractional capital raising advisory services. What does that mean? What that means is this. When it comes to raising money for your company, when it comes to finding money for your company, when it comes to becoming investable, who do you turn to? You do not go to your accountant. It's not their job. Their job is to work on the books. It's not your lawyer. Your lawyer's job is to do the legal stuff. And most business coaches work on the overall business, but they don't focus on capital raising. So who do you turn to? You turn to a company like ours. And the reason why I started this company is on paper, this is my 17th company I've had. 17. My previous companies, some did well, some did not. I've taken a company public here in the United States, as well as also in Germany. I've owned physical therapy clinics, personal training centers, medical marijuana testing labs, a newsletter company, a merchant services company. And in 2017, 2018, what I found out was this. There are a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners who don't qualify for bank loans, and they don't know where to go to when it comes to raising money. So we come in and we really work on that aspect. But what also makes us very different, Arian, is that we also work with thousands of investors all around the United States and also over in Europe. We work with banks, we work with lenders. And the other thing that really makes us unique and different as an entrepreneur, and you're an entrepreneur, is I don't like these consultants that charge you a flat fee every single month. Life happens. Maybe a family member gets sick. Maybe your kid gets sick. Maybe you're moving or something. So what the way we do is we actually put our services at a 10-hour package, a 25-hour package, or a VIP package. So we can get to know one another, and it's worked out pretty well. In the last 2 years, we've helped 71 companies secure offer sheets for money that they needed. And that was over $242 million.
Wow, it's very impressive. So tell me more about how this situation arose. Did you find in your own experiences or with other conversations amongst other entrepreneurs that this is a pressing problem for them?
Part of it was that I used to own a bunch of physical therapy clinics, and my old business partner and mentor did what I do now full time. Before there was a thing called Instagram, before there was crowdfunding, before there was LinkedIn. It was what we use, like a telephone. You actually talk to people. And I've always had to raise money for my companies. My other companies, I've always had to raise money, find investors, so forth and so on. And people would always ask me for advice. How do you do this? How do you do that? And then I would hear from other entrepreneurs that I don't want to go to an accelerator, or I don't want to go to an incubator because they take equity in my company and they use a cookie cutter program. Just because it works for you doesn't work for me. And Arian, like you, kind of like your weight loss journey and stuff that you've done. I'm a medical guy by trade. I'm a physical therapist by trade. So I take a medical approach towards business. And I noticed, okay, if we really look and use a true multidisciplinary approach towards raising money, you can raise money a lot faster and easier than you realize. I also found out, talking to other entrepreneurs and founders, is that they'll spend a ton of money on marketing, they'll spend a ton of money on their lawyers, a ton of money on the accountants, but they don't know how much money they should spend for capital raising. They don't know what a proper capital raising system is. And so there was a demand there that's needed. And part of also what we do too here at UCS Advisors is we teach professional networking. We teach also what's called, ready for this, business etiquette and also emotional intelligence. Just think about this. When you have your dream, your vision for your business, you're gonna get asked some tough questions. It's like your baby, and you want to hold it, you want to protect it, and you think, no, my kid's the best. It's sometimes tough to get that tough love, and sometimes investors will ask you questions to mess with your head on purpose, just to see how you react.
Mm-hmm. And you're actually telling me components of capital raising that I never heard about before. So with that in mind, I want to ask you, what are some components regarding capital raising that most entrepreneurs go wrong with or have a misconception about?
Oh, there's so many. So if you follow me on LinkedIn, my profile, David Cunic, every Tuesday and Thursday, we do what's called a Dr. David's Green Nugget Advisory Tip. So we give a piece of advice. My number one piece of advice I always say is this: failure to plan is planning to fail. So the biggest misconception that we see from people is they fail to plan. I'm going to tell you right now, if you need more money 9 months from today, you got to start planning now. Most people wait till the very last minute to plan. The second thing that happens is that most people don't know how to think outside the box. Let's call a spade a spade. 68% of all businesses less than 5 years old do not qualify for a traditional bank loan. Think about that, 68%. Yeah. And when I say traditional bank loan, I mean not putting your house up as collateral, not giving a personal guarantee. So where do you go to? How do you find investors? Okay. Another fun fact is that people forget majority of small businesses in America make less than $500,000 a year. So you need 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand for your business. How do you do that? So the second biggest misconception that we see for capital raising is people are lazy. I hate to say it, people are lazy. They give up too quick. They give up too early. They quit. And what I mean by this is the following. They ask for money too soon. They may not have their investor profile up to date. They might not even know who their target audience is. And let me give you a great example. Met one young woman who had a really unique app for nurses, very unique. And she was going through and I go, what's your minimum offering? She goes, I need $1.2 million. I'm like, no, what's the minimum offer? What's the smallest check size you'll take? She goes, oh, $50,000. I go, great. What are the terms? I don't know. Do you have your legal paperwork done yet for that $50,000 investment? No, I don't. When an investor is interested, then I'll take care of it. We told them don't do that. That same night, and I told her and I recommended to her that night, I go, listen, there are investors here. Don't tell anyone you're taking money yet because some people will move very quickly. She goes, I think you're dead wrong. She meets someone that night at the same event. And the guy's like, oh, I'm an angel investor. My average investment size is $75,000. I like your concept. Sounds interesting. I invest in you, the founder. Send me over the paperwork. If it looks good, I'll give you the money in the next 5 business days. She goes, I'm going to need at least 3 weeks to get you the paperwork, so I don't have it done yet. The guy jokes around, goes, you know Dr. David over there? You should go talk to him because he'll get you investor ready. And she goes, I already talked to him. And he goes, why haven't you hired him yet? And she lost a $75,000 investor just because she wasn't prepared.
My God.
And Ari, let me take another step further. People will say, oh, there's no money out there. I can't find money. I go, great. Have you reached out to at least 100 people? No. Have you created even a potential investor resource list, which most people say, what's that? If you haven't done it, okay, there's a good chance. Then on top of that, too, go, great. You've been raising money for, at least 5 hours a week for 6 months straight? No, I maybe do an hour a week and I gave up after 60 days. So, and this is where we come in. And once again, if people go to our website, ucsgreatness.com, we always give everyone a free consult. We actually offer a free investor-ready quiz on our website with instant results. And I bring this up is that being a medical guy, I'm old school. It's about empowering you with information and knowledge. So once again, failure to plan is planning to fail.
And also, individuals can be a bit more lazy than they think they are, is what I'm also understanding.
That is true. And then if you also want to hear another fun fact, as for the Small Business Association of America, when you try to raise money by yourself, guess what the percentage of success is when you raise money by yourself?
20%?
Lower. Take another guess.
Let's say 12?
8%. 8% success when you try to raise money by yourself.
Well, I mean, from what you said on this podcast, I mean, you're already introducing ideas and circumstances in which a lot of people are unprepared. That situation where that success rate was 0% because she didn't have the paperwork ready. So you're introducing, obviously, components about capital raising that I would not, and many people don't really pay attention to. So now I can kind of understand why it's so low. Is this very common in terms of across capital raising? Is 8% really the number for the most common circumstance?
Now, once again, this is a third-party fact, but yes, because the other thing is too, well, that's 8% being fully success on their capital raise. A lot of people also don't realize that there's all different types of money out there, more than just bank loans, more than just grants, more than just SBA loans. And here's a great example. Do you remember this little thing called COVID at all?
Yes.
Okay. So we got hired by 4 bars/restaurants during COVID. Okay. Each bar/restaurant only needed maybe $50,000 to $75,000. They didn't know what to do. We actually helped them create a 1-page executive summary. We helped them create a very unique offering. Then we had them tap into their email list and their social media. And we're like, listen, let's have you raise the money. Stop thinking about, take the blinders off. You want one person give you $75,000? That can get a little complicated. Why don't we have a bunch of people give you maybe $5,000 and $10,000? And all 4 of these bars/restaurants did offerings ranging from $5,000 per investment to $10,000 in investments. And they were in shock because just their patrons were the ones who invested in them.
Wow. So the only difference between
they're blown away. They're like, oh my God, I had no idea.
So the only difference between individuals who have a high success rate and a low success rate is simply information and guidance. That's really what I'm seeing, because there are factors that many people don't even understand that are in the capital raising process that would either be the make or break. So this is really the difference maker here. So one last question I really have for you is, I mean, you've started multiple companies. This is your 17th company. I want to ask you, what is your process of identifying a gap in the market and meeting that gap? What is your process for
that? It's funny. I asked this question about a week ago, and someone did research on a lot of my companies, and they're like, you were very early to market on several concepts. I used to do something called the medically oriented gym, brand new concept. I used to do something called a direct access physical therapy center. I used to do online health and wellness for people and their pets. And there's very forward thinking. So if I would have to really answer that question directly, I would say that I like to think outside the box. This is the very first thing. And the second thing is, do I have to do it that way, or is there another way of doing it? And from there, it was a lot of, if there's another way to do this, what is it? And does it make financial sense for me to do it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And pretty much my company, UCS Advisors, and once again, the website is ucsgreatness.com, because our goal is to help you achieve your greatness in your business. Is I noticed that people didn't know where to go to when it came to raising money. They didn't want to go to an incubator. They didn't want to go to an accelerator. They didn't qualify for a bank loan. And their business coach, which they like, didn't focus on that aspect. So we actually work with a lot of accountants, a lot of lawyers. And I already worked at this time with a lot of accountants, a lot of lawyers. I worked with other business coaches. And all three of them were like, we have clients that need money for their company, but they don't know where to go. They don't know how to raise it. Or they don't have a very large budget. And they're like, wait, your 10 hours of service is like $3,000 and change. That's like paying a lawyer for advice. That makes a lot of sense. And it started to go from there. And then we also found out what happens a lot is one of the main reasons why an investor says no to you is because of you, the founder. Because of your lack of presentation skills, lack of networking, or not doing the proper follow-up. So compared to a broker dealer, their job is just to find you money, walk away, find you money, walk away, find you money, walk away.
It's not repeatable.
Yeah, it's not repeatable, and they don't teach you a skill set.
Yeah, exactly. That's the difference between getting it just because a broker did it or you being able to do it repeatedly by yourself. I think that's the most important component to walk away with that situation.
It's also having the experience. The number one reason why people say no to our services is, oh, well, I talked to a few other people and they said I should do X, Y, and Z. And I go, okay, those other people you got advice from, have they ever started a company? Have they ever raised money for their company? Have they paid back investors before? And have they sold a company? Oh, and by the way, when's the last time they invested in a private equity company in the last 12 months? Ask those 5 questions. Exactly. You'll be amazed how many people say, oh, they didn't do
it is incredibly important to look at the results of the person that you're asking advice from. If they don't have the results or they're going through the process and they're acquainted with what you're trying to do or what kind of guidance you're trying to get, I don't think you have any business asking any kind of advice from those kind of individuals. It's like, for example, I'm in fitness, right? So why would I ask someone, even if, this can be a touchy subject, but if I were to go to a doctor and they were not in the best shape or in similar shape to me, which is very common actually, and I asked them for weight loss advice, I'm not going to get the best advice from someone that's not in that particular good shape, as opposed to someone who's in good shape and may not even actually be a doctor. And that's actually a situation that I did run into when I was 240 pounds. But it's incredibly important. The point is, the principle of this conversation, this point is, it is incredibly important to do your due diligence from who you're asking advice from. It makes zero sense to talk to someone who is not acquainted with the kind of guidance you're trying to get. That's the point.
And I like the fitness and doctor analogy, because the analogy I give for a lot of people is this: you have a problem with your heart, and do you want your primary care physician to do the surgery on your heart, or you want to go to a cardiologist and go to a heart surgeon? Oh, everyone says right away, I'll go to a heart surgeon. I go, then why are you asking your lawyer who's never raised money before, or why are you asking your parents' brother's best friend? Like, think about that. And then I also give the other analogy of this: full-time versus part-time. And one of the best things, and this actually happened in my physical therapy world a while ago. I at one point had a boss before I went my own clinics, and his wife was a physical therapist who rarely ever practiced, rarely ever. And she would love to give advice. I didn't like her advice. And I literally had to tell her husband, my boss, which he was not happy with. He goes, I think you're disrespecting my wife. Why aren't you listening to her advice? She's been a therapist over 20 years. And I go, his name was Greg. I go, Greg, I hate to say this, but I do this every single day. I treat patients 50 hours a week. Your wife has been a homemaker for the last 10 years and practices less than 10 hours a quarter. He goes, yeah, so? I go, I need heart surgery. Do I want to go to the heart surgeon who does this every day, or I want to go to the heart surgeon who hasn't really practiced in 10 years? Either of those, oh, I go to the heart surgeon and practice every day. It was the same exact thing. So you're absolutely spot on with that.
Yeah. Great way to put things in perspective. But now I want to learn more about you, David. Mm-hmm. So the first question I want to ask you is, what is something about you or your life that you wish more people knew about?
A lot of people forget that I'm a physical therapist and that I used to own, and I started from scratch, the #1 rated physical therapy clinic in Morris County, New Jersey. And back then, Morris County was one of the top 20 richest counties in America. And to do that from scratch and to do 6 expansions and to be voted #1 for 7 years in a row, a lot of people forget about that. A lot of people just associate with business, but I've had physical therapy clinics. I've taught people how to walk. I've done subacute care. I've done long-term care. I've worked with paraplegics. I've worked with quadriplegics. Like, a lot of people forget about that aspect of my life a lot. And so sometimes they're like, oh, you don't really know much about medicine. That's just a gimmick. And I'm like, no, actually, it really isn't. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Okay. And what's the key to being rated #1, but having over 5 locations at the exact same time? How do you pay the right attention to all locations?
So everyone that worked for me had a specialty in physical therapy.
Okay.
And so I made sure all the clinics were within pretty much a half hour of each other. And depending on you, the patient, your condition, we might say this is the right, even though this clinic's only a mile from your house, we don't have a specialist. Like, here's an example. I had a therapist that worked for me. All she did was work on runners, literally just runners. If you are a marathon runner or a half marathon runner, you would go only see her and just her. And people sometimes would complain, like, well, I don't want to drive the 25 minutes ago. Do you want to see the person that's going to correct your problem immediately? Mm-hmm. So that was one aspect. The other thing is communication. I have a very strict rule that I've had for many years. If it takes more than 3 emails or more than 3 text messages, you pick up the phone and you call. Mm-hmm. I've always had a very, very strict rule for that. I also had a very strict rule for all my employees that you have to be able to leave a voicemail. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the big, and that goes also back to capital raising. One reason why investors will not invest in you is if when they call you and try to get hold of you, they can't leave you a voicemail. There's a good chance I'm going to walk away. And people say, why? I go, because you come across as selfish. And no offense, if you have time to go through Instagram on your phone or go through Facebook or whatever social media, you have time to spend a minute to delete voicemails. Think about it.
And those are lack of also opportunity as well. Like, you're reducing the amount of opportunity you can get. If someone can't actually reach you, they should be able to leave you a message.
Exactly.
And that does lead to an opportunity, and you're basically not allowing that to happen. So that's excellent. And the other question I had for you is this: the people that have been on my podcast, 100+ entrepreneurs, what I've noticed is every single one of them have a bias for action. They're very driven, and they're fighting to bring their vision to life. And I think the reason for this is because they have a very strong why driving them. So I want to ask you, David, what is your why?
I'm not the biggest fan of this question, just so you know. It's because I think everyone's why can change. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I'm very blessed. I'm on my 3rd career. Like, I'm in my 40s. I've had 2 other successful careers. I'm on my 3rd career now. But my more mantra is I'm a medical guy by trade, and I'm a big believer in empowering people with information and knowledge and helping others. I'm a caregiver at heart. And I did that caregiver stuff for patients. Then I had a goal of taking my company and make it throughout the states. I did stuff on a state level. I took another company and put it on the national level. And as I progressed with my career, what I really noticed is it's about helping others make their dreams a reality. And how can I do that? And I see too much how money, whether you like it or not, money can really truly help achieve your goals and what you want and your aspirations, particularly in business. Mm-hmm. And if we can help others make their dreams and goals a reality, that's my reason. I mean, and eventually, another way I kind of put it is I'm also an investor as well too. I also invest in companies. I work for a lot of investors. It's amazing how often some investors just really want to get behind a really feel-good story. And that's why, especially for probably a lot of your entrepreneurs and your founders that are on, investors are investing in you, the jockey, not the horse. Yes, there are tech companies. Yes, there's big data companies, but a lot of companies, they can get investors. They can get smaller investors. I mean, heck, I'll give you a great example. After today's podcast, I'm meeting with two women. They're doing a startup, and really, they're like, we only need $250,000 for our business. We broke it down. We're like, you only really need $85,000 before we start making money. Mm-hmm. Let's redo your pitch. Let's angle differently. Stuff like that. And that's the stuff that gets me going.
And money being a barrier to entrepreneurs being able to turn their dreams into reality doesn't really have to be a barrier with the right information. That's really what I've learned on this podcast is there are certain tweaks you can make. There's certain strategies you can have. You can have your paperwork ready. You can ask in a specific way. You can break down the funding into multiple other investors. There are different ways you can take this. And I think the only barrier is actually knowledge and guidance from people who've actually done it. So that makes complete sense. And honestly, I learned a lot from on this one podcast, man. Thank you.
Can I give you another food for thought?
Yeah.
So if you go to our website, ucsgreatness.com, mm-hmm. we also actually work with a third-party loan program on our website. They give out up to $500,000 of unsecured personal debt. Unsecured. All right. And the application's on our website. It's very simple. You get funded in 10 or 15 business days. The reason why I bring this up is the following. A lot of people say, oh, I can't get a business loan. I can't get a bank loan. I don't take credit cards, so I can't get a merchant service loan. Where do I go? I only need like 50 grand or 75 grand or 100 grand. We send them to our website, ucsgreatness.com. We tell them, go fill out this loan program. Now, either one or two things happen, ready? And this is a gut check for entrepreneurs. Either one, they say, I don't want to take on any debt, which I respond back to them, you don't want to take on any debt yourself to make your dream a reality, but you'll take a random investor's money. That makes no sense whatsoever. Mm-hmm. Or number two, people say, oh my God, I just qualified for 100 grand. Oh my God, I qualified for 200 grand. And real life example, not even 2 weeks ago, a guy has a marketing company, solopreneur, one-man team. And he's like, man, I only need $35,000. And he called us up and he looked for advice. And I told him, man, for 35 grand, I go, don't pay us, fill out this loan program. I think you might qualify. By himself, guess how much do you think he qualified for? From zero, he only needed 35,000. From zero to $500,000, guess how much he qualified for?
100 grand, 75,000 to 100 grand.
$123,000 he qualified for. And he goes, I had no idea I qualified that much. I'm like, you
don't know.
I'm like, take what you need. Well, it's also, for him, it was education.
Yeah.
And I go, you don't have to take the money, but at least now you know what you qualify for. So we tell everyone listen to your podcast, Aryan, I'll tell you right now, you need less than $500,000. You need to make the next steps in your company. You don't know where it turns to. Go to our website, ucsgreatness.com. Fill out the third-party loan application. All right. And it's also part of what we do is about education and empowering, because see what you qualify for. You don't have to say yes to the money, but now you know what you have, what you have access to.
You have an option. So now I want to shift the conversation to more about fitness and health. So I had a quick question for you. What do you think is the primary challenge to make a fitness transformation?
Clear and concise goals is number one. Secondly, doing something every day, daily. In physical therapy, even my buddies who aren't in medicine joke around. So I'm like, motion is lotion for the body. All right. So that, and the second thing, which I didn't really start doing this till about maybe 3 years ago, you gotta do something outdoors every day for at least 20 minutes. Whether it's a walk, whether it's just outside meditating, whether it's even like reading a book outside, you need to get outside, whether it's raining, whether it's cold. like a little trick I do, living in Maine right now in the wintertime, I go in the parking garage and I go the top deck of the parking garage. And I'll just go for a walk in the middle of winter. It's still outside, still getting the fresh air. But clear, concise goals. Also, make sure you're outside every day, 20 minutes, even just breathing in the fresh air, even just riding a bicycle, you gotta be outside. It's amazing for our body what it does.
Right. And having those clear, concise goals are absolutely important. Getting something in every day as well is absolutely important as well. One thing I will say is this, after speaking to especially 100+ entrepreneurs specifically, I think the problem really stems from a misconception of what is really required to transform your physical fitness or your body in general. Because I'm talking about individuals who not only are in just bad shape, when they walk up a flight of stairs, they get out of breath. These are the kind of individuals I'm speaking about, right? And that is not a high quality of life. So first, there's this idea of you need to make it a priority. There's a degree of priority necessary. But the bigger problem I see is the perceived requirements to make this transformation occur. Now, the common viewpoint adopted by most entrepreneurs and by the general public is the only way you make your transformation is if you drive to a studio, you drive to a gym, and you exercise. The issue is that is leaving out a contingent of people who can't really commit to that. There are entrepreneurs I speak to every day who can't even commit to the commute alone to the gym. So how can they commit to the actual exercise in the gym? That's the question, right? And this stems from the fact that people don't understand that this whole thing is not even required in the first place. 90% of what people believe is actually not required in the first place. What is really required is one thing. It's a negative energy balance. I don't need to get too super scientific about this, but
now, look at that PMA, baby. Positive mental attitude. This is what we teach everyone. Positive mental attitude.
Let's do it. You're burning more calories than you're consuming on a daily basis. That is really the only requirement to make weight loss happen. And what that buys you is freedom of movement, being able to walk up a flight of stairs without being out of breath, being able to look the way you want to look, essentially, right? So what I'm saying is that if you adhere to this, that is really what would drive the change. But why I'm telling you this, and I understand most people won't understand what this calorie deficit, calorie intake situation is, but what's important to understand is when you comprehend this is the only requirement, there are different avenues you can take to make this happen. For example, I lost all of my weight without ever stepping foot into the gym or ever cutting out any chocolate whatsoever in my diet. And the reason why is because I understood this is the only requirement. So the essence of a founder is to really look at the market, look at the existing solutions, understand why they're effective, then challenge the requirements of the problem and come up with an even more effective solution. So when we look at weight loss, we look at fitness solutions, right? Since the only requirement is that negative energy balance, what you can do is you can use location-independent exercise to make this happen. Meaning you can prioritize exercise that can be done anytime and anywhere. And in fact, if you have a ground to walk on, you can get in the best shape of your entire life if you have the right knowledge, right? So I think the most important thing to understand is, one, you have to understand that you spending time in the gym is not what drives the transformation. It's how successful you are in making a negative energy balance occur. And number two, the avenue by which you take to make this happen must be location independent, something you can do any time and anywhere. And what's even better is if you prioritize the kind of movement you can do on a phone call, this basically lowers your barrier to zero to make a transformation.
Let's take what you're saying. Let's take what you're saying to another. This goes back to when you asked me about what happens with the entrepreneurs with K-Base Capital. What I say, failure to plan is plan to fail. So what you're saying is spot on. And I totally agree with you on that. Like during COVID, I'm like, wait, you have a stairwell, you have an apartment complex, go up and down the stairs. Boom, exercise. Okay. You have access to a parking garage. Boom. Like literally, hey, I'm here at my office. If I got to sneak in a workout, I have my bands here to get a workout in. I use a Fitboard. So literally, you have to make a plan. And one example is my buddy. He got a car accident. He didn't have a car for 3 weeks. He's like, I can't go to the gym. I'm like, yeah, you can, man. I go, just switch up your workout routine. Do all body work. Do pull-ups. Do push-ups. Do this. Do that. And he goes, oh snap. Yeah, I won't make the gains I want to make, but at least I'll maintain my fitness level. I'm like, exactly. And I go, so you just have to make that plan. And also, put it in your schedule. One of the biggest things is, and I tell people this all the time with raising money, book yourself a meeting. Hey, when it comes to working out, book yourself a meeting. And also, too, have fun at the workouts. You know, kind of like what you said, like if like some people say they're always in a rush or this and that. Like myself, Saturday and Sundays is the day I do a longer workout. And I also make sure I do a 20-minute sauna because I like doing the sauna. I do a longer workout, do some extra stretching. Like I know for me, it's fun. It's stress relief. Because I know Monday through Friday, my workouts are very short and concise, but I still schedule them. So you're absolutely right. You don't have to go to the gym. Just make a plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we conclude the conversation, one of the avenues I took that was actually primarily my movement was step count. This is something you can do when you're on a phone call, something you can do while you're pacing around in a room. You can do this as long as there's floor beneath you to walk on. You can use this and get in the best shape of your life. So it's really about the knowledge you have and the avenue you take to make this happen is what I would say is what's very important to understand. So with that, we'll conclude the fitness conversation and we'll move on to the next year plans with regard to UCS advisors and anything you want to include, David.
Sure. So next year's plans, interesting to say, I actually come up with themes to the year. So every year before I set my goals, I think of the theme of the year. And based off of my theme for the year will determine my goals. Now I'm going to give you full and then I also come up with quarterly goals as well too. Now I'll be very frank with you. I don't come up with a theme of the next year. So I will not think of my theme for 2026 till roughly October, November. However, though, the goal for UCS advisors for next year is to help raise over $100 million for companies that we work with. Another goal for us is to literally sit here and this is a financial number, to do over $600,000 of business from our hourly clients. Could that number be larger? Yes. Could it be smaller? Yes. Our goal is that. But more importantly is our ultimate goal is really to make sure that the entrepreneurs and founders that we're working with are continuing to grow their company forward. I live in the golden bubble. When we work with someone, I love for them to keep rehiring us throughout their journey. And right now, roughly 22 to 24% of our clients, after they raise the money, still work with us for general business advice, how to reach out to their investors, when to reach out to their investors, so forth and so on. And that's really what it comes down to. Because the ultimate goal is what I would like is to literally create my own fund and help all small businesses, not only as an investor, but also as an advisor.
Love it. Now, where do people keep up with those goals and with you, David?
What do you mean, where do they keep up?
As in LinkedIn or your website?
Okay, so for us, our website's ucsgreatness.com. So that's where you can go get the investor ready quiz. That's where you can go if you need if you need less than $500,000 for your business. That's where it's literally personal unsecured. Keyword being unsecured because it's very tough to find that. Extremely tough to find that. And last but not least, my LinkedIn page, David Cunic, Cunic. I used to post on LinkedIn 7 days a week. I did that actually for a year and a half. Now I do maybe 3 to 4 times a week. And on purpose, I kind of put that down. But ucsgreatness.com is a great spot. Check out the website. Take the investor ready quiz. Check out, just fill out the loan application. See what you qualify for. Use it as leverage. Use it as a safety net. And also LinkedIn, David Cunic.
And if you're actually serious about it, go to ucsgreatness.com and fill out that loan application. See if you qualify and how much you qualify for. It probably is a lot more.
It is, and it's also use it for. There's an old saying: you want to have peace of mind, right? You're a business. What if something happens and all of a sudden you have to shut down the business for a little bit? Or, oh my God, you have this big unexpected expense. Why not figure out what you qualify for ahead of time? Because the other thing is too, bank loans take way too long. merchants, these merchant service advances, they take up money out of your account every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why not see what you can do? Because also
Absolutely.
too, I actually had a couple entrepreneurs fill out the loan application, took out more than they needed. You know what they did? They took part of the money, used it for the business. They took the other part of the money and they invested it and use it for investments.
See,
and they're making the money work for them.
Not only will you have an option for a situation that's unprecedented, but you could also use it for an investment that you've always wanted to try. You could also maybe do it for whatever you want to try in the future as well. So, David, again, thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me today. Appreciate it. Hey, and thank you for doing what you're doing, hosting this podcast, because it's about educating, empowering people, and that's what you're doing. So thank you.
Absolutely. And you are making it more possible for us to do that. And you shared lots of important information in this episode alone. And it was such a pleasure to have you on. Thank you again. This was Aryan Mohindra and Dr. David Cunic.